Well, hello, Glue Troopers. Max and Max's Models here, and had a fairly productive day. So let's jump into what we got done today. That PAC 40 75 millimeter German gun, I got it painted base coat on it. I found a whole bunch of different paint schemes. I decided to go with sort of a desert scheme. It's sort of a yellow, but I'm not quite done with it. But it's on the shelf temporarily until I get around to detailing and get the crew built. Then I put all the armor in the paint booth and got cracking. And the universal carrier is pretty straightforward, olive drab, but the Russian tanks have their own shade of green that I kept trying to mix, and I thought I could rattle can it, but all the different shades were just a little too bright, or in case olive drab, a little too dark. And I actually even tried hitting it with some green over the drab and then drab over the green to see if that would mute it down. You can't really mix rattle can colors like that, no matter how I try. It's getting close, but no cigar. So it became pretty obvious that I was going to have to go ahead and mix up my own acrylic paints. And I must have tried about 8 different combinations before I finally got down, decided to go into the paint factory and just start mixing and matching. And eventually I was able to, I actually took the model and just used a bunch of my acrylics to see if any of the greens I had would fit. They didn't. So then I got what I thought was pretty close at one point, but when I put it on the tank, it was just still too dark. So I mixed some NATO green and flat white, and probably a 4-to-1 mix, and got a much closer green that time around. It's like, okay, let's stick this in the airbrush and get to go into town here. So I got what looked pretty close. I figured it's good enough for me. So went ahead and started blasting the KV, and it's okay. You know, it came out close enough. It's not exactly right. There's probably a color in there that's actually exactly what you need for Russian tanks, but I didn't find any. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just make my own. And there we go. So we're off to the races. And it went over pretty easily. I put some here right over the green so you can see how closely it matched with the box art. And that's good. And the thing is that at first I thought it might be a little too light, but then when it dried, you got to let it gas out, because it gassed out a little closer to on color. So I also got to work on that rail car. I was just going to paint the coal black and put it on the shelf. I wasn't really going to get into it. But, you know, sometimes I've got my weathering kit right here, and I tried a little experiment. I held the rail car out at arm's length and hit it with the airbrush with some flat black just to give a scattered, nasty coal look. And I was like, hey, that actually kind of worked. And once you get, going like that, then you're sort of like, well, a little here, a little rust there, a little touch up here, a little wash there. And the next thing you know, you're going to town on this thing. And to my amazement, the decals were still good. And I might add some more rust streaks to it later, but it might be overkill. One thing, though, is that the instruction sheet and the box art have the decals opposite of each other. So I went with the instruction sheet. And I'm like, wow, this thing actually turned out looking really good. Of course, when you get to grunge something up, that covers a multitude of sins. But, this was just something I put together while I was watching YouTube videos just to keep my hands busy. I didn't think, I'm not going to really waste any time on this. And I even wound up using the silver highlight and everything down on the brake mechanism because I had it in the weathering kit. And it's a little hard for the camera to pick it up, but it worked. I was waiting for everything else to gas out, so what else am I going to do? And I was like, cool. I don't know where I'm going to put it. So we went to the post office. I had a box from our friend Ricky, and unfortunately the Postal Service was not kind to the contents. We have kind of glued it back together, but unfortunately one of the chunks got away from us somehow. So there you go. But we also got this book, Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again, by Shigeru Koyama. Now this is, as I understand it, the novella that the script was written from. And I've already started reading it. It's pretty cool. It's a little different. Unfortunately, the glue trooper that sent this to me told me it was coming. I can't find that email, and the delivery didn't have a note or anything. So whoever it was that sent that to me, let me know so I can give you your shout out because I do appreciate it. And then back to work on the. We got back home. Got back to work on the tanks, and at some point I was moving around and managed to knock that Piper Cub wooden airframe off the wall, and I wasn't anywhere near it. I'm like, how did that happen? And the tail popped off, so I'm going to use Gorilla Glue. That's the second or third time that tail's popped off, so I'm using Gorilla Glue on it this time, and then it'll go back, hang up on the wall. It's just a wall hanger. I did not build this. A Glue Trooper sent that to me, and I knew I'd never finish it, so I said, you know what, I'll just put it up and make a nice piece of background decoration for it. So got the KV2 essentially done, and it's funny, the decals, if you use the red star, you don't use anything else. If you want those big cool letters, you either use a white star or this other thing they had. And I was like, I like those big Russian letters like that. And I almost put the red star on anyway, but I was like, I'll go ahead and make it accurate. It's weird having a white star. I'm not entirely sure why the Russians marked it that way. Putting the tracks together on the universal carrier, I'm using Gorilla Glue on one and Tamiya Thin on the other, see which one holds better. But I got to give it 24 hours for that Gorilla Glue to harden. And pre-painting a lot of the parts for the SAS Jeep and the universal carrier. It's coming along. Again, putting more, it's you figure I'm just going to put a quick coat on it, and that's going to be it. And once you get into it, you just can't, a little detail here, a little detail there. And it's kind of nice because you don't weird yourself out worrying about it. You just kind of take it as it comes. I decided with that Panther, since apparently the Alps A, frequently a lot of them came from the factory with the Zimmermitt, I decided to go ahead and use some Tamiya white to make some Zimmermitt for it. So there's, I let it hard for a while, and there's some test pattern stuff, but it's just me having fun. And I got the JS2 once it was done getting painted. I'm starting to put the tracks on it now, and I put it in check markings just to have something different. Funny, 2 Russian tanks and no red stars. That's a little weird. But got a lot done today, and got a lot to do tomorrow. Now, I have things coming up. There may not be a live stream next weekend because I believe I'm going to be at the PAMSCon in Polk City, and I don't think I'll get back in time. But I'll look at my schedule and see how that works out. But ton of stuff to get done over the next few days. I'd like to have these wrapped up before I go back to work. And that's where we're at for right now. Fun day of building, and the whole Zimmermitt thing is my first time trying it, so that's fun. And just having a good time out in the Tarbis, just building away. And a ton of projects I still need to get to. I promise myself I'm not opening any more boxes until I get everything on the tables done. And other tall tales. Guys, take care of yourselves, and as always, model on.
Lleves que